Hello everyone, we are going to review a little bit about run-on sentences, primarily about preventing them by using a comma to separate independent clauses. This is one of our videos in our comma series at the Lackawanna College Writing Center YouTube channel. So let's review first of all what a run-on sentence is, and that's a sentence that combines two or more independent clauses without the proper conjunctions or punctuation. An independent clause basically is its own sentence. So this has a subject, a verb, and most of all it is a complete thought. So here's an example. Students at Lackawanna love to come to the Writing Center. Get rid of your prepositional phrases to more easily identify your subject, students, your verb, love, and you make sure it's a complete thought. Make sure there aren't any words that make this otherwise sentence a fragment or that make it incomplete, although is one of these words. And by adding it to the otherwise complete sentence, it becomes a fragment, which changes things when you combine these parts of a sentence. Okay, so let's look at the way that a lot of writers tend to use commas when splitting up these two otherwise sentences, because you realize that you need a pause. However, let's look at doing that correctly. Here we have our full sentence from before. Students at Lackawanna love to come to the Writing Center. And here we have another complete sentence on the right. It helps improve their writing skills. One independent clause, second independent clause. It's tempting to separate these two with a comma. However, that would be a type of run-on called a comma splice. You do not combine sentences or independent clauses with just a comma, but let's look at how you would use a comma appropriately to separate these two. You would use a comma if you were combining a dependent clause and an independent clause, also called an introductory clause or phrase sometimes. There's a whole comma presentation on that. So when you have one of those tricky words that makes that first part a fragment, like even though it is springtime, despite having the subject and verb, you have an introductory clause. And then you have a full independent clause on your right. It feels like winter outside, which is why you could use a comma here. However, when you're separating two independent clauses, a way to use a comma to give breath is to add what's called a coordinating conjunction. So try to remember this acronym here, Fanboys. Fanboys stand for the words that you can use to connect two independent clauses after a comma. We have the words for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. Here we have an example of how you use the comma and each one of these conjunctions, but to connect two independent clauses. Remember, you cannot just add a comma. You need these words if that's the route you're going to go. Let's look at the first one. We watch the news closely. That's its own thought. It's independent. It has a subject we, a verb watch, and it can stand on its own. You could end it right there. Let's look on the right side of the word for. We are all anxious to know updates on the current situation. We have our subject we have the verb are, and that's a complete thought. That can be its own sentence. In order to split these two complete thoughts, we have a comma, but remember, you can't just use a comma. That's a comma splice. So we have our nice little Fanboys conjunction that makes sense right there. What I recommend you do right now is take a moment to pause this video, go through and familiarize yourself with the Fanboys words, break up each independent clause on the left and the right of the coordinating conjunction, and if you have any questions, one place to go is our run-on sentences section of the channel. But as always, please make sure to go to the Writing Center online or in person to get extra help if you're still having difficulty. Happy writing, everyone.